Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham. You're watching the handicap, and it's a Rugby World Cup semi-final weekend. We're also going to be having a look at the first week of URC action, and then quite possibly just have a look at the Gallagher Premiership from a betting perspective as well. We won't spend too much time on that though. And let me introduce you to the panel. And at this stage, I've only got one half of the panel in, and it's Steve Cornflake from New Zealand. Steve, great to have you back on the show, mate.
Great to be here again. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to another exciting weekend of rugby. It's weird when we've still got the World Cup going on and everything's all intense at the World Cup, but then we've still got that little shimmer of Northern Hemisphere club rugby getting back into action. For us down here, we all go to sleep after this. We're all asleep till next February when Super Rugby starts. So it's nice to have a little bit of something that's still going on that gives us hope for more rugby later on.
Excellent. Yeah, that's for sure. Just to welcome the guys into the live chat. Johanna's there using the hashtag RWC. So you use this hashtag. We'll do a draw towards the end of the show, and you can get the 500 Rand bet exchange voucher. Kirky, Mike, Kirkpatrick's in there as well. Edward and Stefan, welcome, guys. Thanks very much. They are streaming in now as the show gets going. We are waiting for thoughts on sports. He hasn't come in yet. He might be battling a little bit technically. We'll bring him in when we can. But Steve, must recap last week. I mean, first of all, I was saying to you just before the show, I thought that Ireland-New Zealand game was like the best game perhaps I'd ever watched. And then 24 hours later, I was going, yeah, maybe the France-South Africa game was even better. Cracking semi-finals, but let's just start off from a New Zealander's perspective. You must be so proud of the boys for pulling that one off against a really top-class Ireland side.
I tell you what, it was immense. It was exciting. It was draining. You had all the emotions, didn't you, throughout that weekend? It was crazy. I mean, the media, the feeling around the country is definitely a bit more upbeat about the way that the All Blacks have played, right? We've not had the greatest build-up over the last couple of years. And sure, we've won everything pretty much that we've entered into, but the team just hasn't really looked like the team. New Zealand's very expectant on how the All Blacks play, right? So going in through that tournament, the loss to France, the feeling around the team wasn't hugely popular or hugely encouraging to how they're going to progress through, especially with our history versus Ireland. But that game, best All Black performance I've seen for at least 2 years. They've just defended incredibly. I mean, we've got to give credit to Ireland because we all talk about how well the All Blacks played in that game and how much they stepped up to the level. But Ireland played at that level for 2-3 years now. They've been at that level. They've not dropped off, or they didn't really pick up. They were there already. So credit to Ireland. They brought the fight like we all knew they would. The question was whether the All Blacks could step up that capability of just going that little bit further and that little bit of squad tactics and squad ability to know how to win those clutch moments in a playoff game. And I think that comes true for both of South Africa and New Zealand in these quarterfinal matchups. But a phenomenal weekend. Everyone's loving the All Blacks again now here in New Zealand. The black shirts are all out again. The positivity through the roof. But I just want to see consistency now for the team heading into a bit of a massive favourite tag, and whether they can keep that up in that same intensity that we saw. And if I'd question, if that was a semi-final against Ireland, and then we played, say, South Africa in a final this weekend, that would be a massive ask. And I don't know if they'll be up to that, but we will see over the next 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, no, that's for sure. And I mean, it would have been interesting if those were two semi-finals going into a final, because you could have argued that both teams played their final in the semi-final then. It would have been very interesting to see what happened in the final. Just to welcome, all the guys to the live chat. Richard Moore, he's a multiple winner of this. He's a lucky bugger, this. Hashtag RWC. Take on Richard and see if you can take him out there. Mark Dunphy coming in from Ireland. Of course, my sympathies went out to the Irish fans because I do have so many friends who are Irish. And they were really, I mean, it was really cruel that they went out in the quarterfinals, because there's no doubt that, we won't talk about the draw any longer, but this should not have been a quarterfinal. And Mark did say New Zealand slightly better than us on the day, and I think that's a fair assessment, Mark, on that one. Anyway, I'm not sure what has happened to thoughts on sports, but let's get into it. And we'll start off with the first semi-final. We've got, and by the way, I've got the outright betting scrolling down below at BetExchange. So first of all, thanks to BetExchange for the sponsorship. They're putting up the 500 Rand voucher. And we'll get their banners up now. Just I've got two different types of banners. I don't want to pull the one up and then I've got to change it when Thoughts of Sports gets in. But he seems to be battling a bit, so we'll bring it up here. And Steve, we got a handicap here. You alluded to it in the build-up. We've got 17.5-point favourites, New Zealand. And look, the way they played certainly last week, it's hard to argue with that. Argentina were impressive against Wales. They came back from 10-0 down to win the game, but Wales and New Zealand, totally different propositions. This is a big handicap. The question is, I guess, first of all, from a betting point of view, is it big enough? And we got a total points line here, 48.5. What sort of game are we going to be looking at here?
I think, see, this is a game for me. I spent a lot of time looking at this one because this all pivots, not so much, I don't think, how the All Blacks are going to play, but what sort of Argentina are going to turn up, because we've really seen the liquid all sorts from Argentina throughout this Rugby World Cup. So I think this is a game where if I was going to be putting a lot of money on it, I'd be waiting, 5 minutes into this game, 10 minutes into this game, and looking for live betting options, because going into it, we could easily see a massive win to the All Blacks, or this is going to be really, really tight either which way. And I think it's going to depend a lot to what Argentina turns up with and what they throw at the game early. Are they going to come out of the blocks nice and quick and play that second half that we saw against Wales, where they were really, really good, impactful, got good yards out of that back row and that second row, just played like Argentina we expect, right, from the Rugby Championship? Or are they going to play like that Argentina in the pool stage, like against England, where they dropped every single ball, they couldn't get any momentum, they kicked aimlessly? If they do that, they're going to get a bit punished, I think. The All Blacks, I don't think they're going to be quite as sharp as they were against Ireland. I kind of think that they're going to, maybe not purposely, but they will be a bit off that same intensity in that game. But it's the All Blacks, and you just can't afford to throw away chances. If you're going to knock the ball on in your own half, if you're not going to take kicks cleanly, if you're not going to clear your own half well, the All Blacks will take total of that either way. So I like the fact that seeing what Argentina is going to show up. I think 18.5. I think I'm going to be optimistic, and 18.5 here. You've got 17.5, so we differ just slightly with our agencies here. But I think this is a game I want to see it definitely go under. I definitely want to see it go under. And I think Argentina, with their passion and the way they play rugby, I just hope so much that they realize and establish what this game is. It's a World Cup semi-final, okay? Roll us back to the Jaguares a few years ago in those semi-finals and the finals of Super Rugby. Roll us back to those days with that passion, that body on the line, everything out there. That rugby comes out from Argentina. That's what I hope we see. And if that is the case, 18.5 is way too large. And I think total 48, I'm going to be over that as well. I think we're going to see lots of tries. We're going to see fun rugby, because that's how Argentina like to play. And if they do play how they want to play and they get it together, we're going to see such talents, right? Mateo Carreras, that kid is just phenomenal. It doesn't matter what defense you're against. He's electric. He's fast. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be tight. I think overall will be under the margin, but I do think we're going to be over the points and over the tries as well, which I've got at 5.5. So it should be a nice, exciting game from these two sides. I just, again, hope that Argentina bring that passion to the game.
That's it. Now, I agree with you. I guess if they bring that passion and they're leading by 6 points with 10 to play, you'll be unhappy they brought the passion to the game. But you're exactly what you say there. I really hope that this is a cracking one. In fact, I was about to mention the weather, and I just see Glenn has come in with a comment here. Been raining in Paris all week and likely to rain during both games. So thanks for that, Glenn, because I did look at the forecast and I saw there was quite a bit of rain early in the day for today's match. Definitely, and we won't talk about the South Africa game just yet, but definitely that looks like one that's going to be impacted by the rain. So let me tell you what I've done on this game so far, Steve. I'm looking at New Zealand to make a fast start. I really just feel they tend to come out of the blocks quickly. I'm going New Zealand. I think I got -7.5 on halftime handicaps. They must leave by 8 or more at the break. So that's what I've done so far. And then I'm looking at points. I'm actually leaning towards unders points here because I do think conditions are going to be a bit slippery. I'm a little bit wary of the full-time handicap because I do see a situation where New Zealand go clear and then they kind of pull their big guns off quite early, potentially resting them up for the final once they know the game is won. So for me, it's New Zealand halftime handicap is my play. And Peter Paul mentioning, and I wasn't aware of this, Peter Paul, because I was going to make mention now that those odds I'm quoting, they are available at even money at BetExchange using their price boost, which is certainly great. I know they guarantee it up to 5,000 Rand for a bet. And Peter Paul mentioning they'd have that on the URC as well. So that is excellent news, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. So that's the first game. When Neil comes in, if Neil comes in, I have sent him a message. I hope everything's okay his side. We'll get his comments on the on this game. But for now, though, we're going to move on to the next one to see what Mike says. The only team that could take on the ABs is the Boks. ABs by 35. So Kirky is really, really confident about a big All Black win there. And Peter Paul just confirming the United Rugby Championship is a limit of 3,000. That's excellent news, Peter Paul. Thanks very much. Right, let's get into the next game then. And it's, of course, taking place on Saturday night. It's England up against South Africa. Steve, I can tell you this handicap opened minus 10.5 South Africa. The money came for the South Africans. But I caught up with one of our local bookmakers the other day, and he said, very interesting. The money is coming for South Africa, even at minus 13.5 levels. But there's also punters out there that are backing England to win the game at 5-1. So you're getting two sort of extremes there. So you can look at this as a neutral. I'm guessing if you had to choose, you'd want to meet in the final. You'd probably say England. But what are your views on this game?
No, not a chance. England going down. England going down like a flaming pile of ash. That's what I'm going for. My perspective on this is, and I've talked about this quite a bit during the quarterfinals. If I've got 4 teams remaining, right, I've got the All Blacks, I've got South Africa, I've got Argentina, and I've got England. That's literally my order of what I wanted to win. The All Blacks would be clearly my favourite to win. I'd be quite happy if the Springboks won, or Argentina. Keep it in the South. Keep it in our Rugby Championship, boys. You guys are like brothers to us here. So that's what we want. The one thing we don't want is England. Okay? Cut and dry, short and sharp. We don't want England to win this.
You've cut right through. I mean, here I was thinking you might want England. You don't want England. You're making that very clear.
Don't want England, no. Look, this England team, I was very, very negative towards this England team coming into the World Cup, okay? I think they've showed exactly, we've learned a lot through them, right? Of how they've gone throughout this tournament. They have a very good back row. I've been massively impressed by Ben Errol, Courtney Laws. I think they are fantastic players. They carry that team. I think the team should get rid of Owen Farrell and put George Ford in there. They have a lot more structure and a lot more fluidity with the way that they play with Ford in that sort of mix. But hey, we all know they're going to go off the captain and the man that runs that ship. But yeah, this is a team, England, I think, if they get sort of things going their way, they're going to have to win this with kicks. They're going to have to win this through the midfield at widest. They are never going to win the outside channel battle here. Any way I see England doing it is if the Boks completely lose their marbles and their discipline completely goes out the window. Player matchups. I just keep going to the outside backs, and I just can't for the life of me, week after week, see the value in May and Daly on those wings. I just don't see the value in it. Yes, sometimes when you get a little bit of a struggle, Daly's got a good punt on him when he gets stuck at the back helping Freddie Stewart or Marcus Smith, whoever's there out. But really, as an attacking threat, there's just nothing out there. And I think the Boks are going to not only really step up and better this team in the pack, which is where they have been best, but the outside channels, man, I think we could be seeing a field day for the Curly Odinses and the Chis and Colbys and even Willemse, man. Willemse could easily tear this game to pieces as well. So weather will come into it, though. Like you say, if it is rainy, if it is going to those poor conditions, that'll play, I think, into the English hands. But, I'll be cheering for the Boks to do this one all day. So I think the English might be in this one up to halftime. I think this could be a game that wears their way. But I just think the power and the physicality of the Boks will wear this one down into that second half. And I think 13 isn't quite enough. I'm kind of going over with that, but I'm going under on the total points and the tries for sure. So this is going to be one that, second half, you got to change. See that sort of change with the Springboks, with the Pollard change, with the Clark change, go to that more sort of tactical, territorial, taking threes at every instant. So that'll just slowly tick over their scoreboard for them. I don't think I'm going to see a huge, certainly not from England. We won't see any tries. The TAB here has a lot of betting options on England to score tries. Not interested at all. I'm not interested in them at all. So, give me anything for South Africa here. But I did notice they have a really, really interesting bet with boosted odds here in New Zealand for Chis and Colby to charge down a conversion, paying $31. They really jump on it, don't they? They really jump on the weird and wonderful here. But for me, it's all going to be the pressure, discipline, and just accumulating those points, especially in the second half when we see that change of Pollard. I think it's going to be really, really crucial for the Springboks. But don't give me England. No chance. Give yourself 30 minutes. If you're not ahead by 15, England, time to pack up and go home.
Mark Dunphy saying a one-off game will suit England. They'll still run out of gas. A couple of people saying the conditions, if it rains, might suit England a bit. want to just go back. Peter Paul, you made a comment earlier. We did a show in the build-up last week where we ran a competition. It was the sum total of the multiples of all the winning margins of the quarterfinals. He was asking what was the result. I can tell you it ended at 288, and Johan Esterhazen actually won it. Johan, I have sent you an email if you want to claim your voucher on that one. We'll do something else. We're going to go live tonight at 6 o'clock as well for another just build-up show on the rugby. And on the topic of live shows, I mean, you were talking to me beforehand as well. You had quite a lot of South Africans in on your live show last week, so the guys can find you and on your Cornflake channel if they want to talk along with you while they watch the game. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, we're live on YouTube at Cornflake, and we're live on Twitch as well, Cornflake BTP. So you can catch us either there. Pretty much, we're just discussing the game commentary. If you can't tune into it yourself, we have a watch party going in Discord as well. If you are stuck for places to watch it, so yeah, we have everything going on. But yeah, we've got a cool little group of people that hang out. We've got a lot of Box fans. We've got a lot of Scotsmen. You know, we've got some Englishmen in there. We've got all sorts going on. It's good banter. Makes it good fun. You know, and everyone getting into this really interesting part of the season, man. I tell you, the nerves are starting to flow up. You see it. Everyone's getting excited. Everyone's getting nervous for their team, and you start to see the interesting parts of people come out, right? So it's good fun, good for chats. You know, everyone loves a good opinion, so we keep them flowing and just have some good rugby discussion. So it's good fun for the streams. So if you're looking for something interesting to talk to people and hang out, come join us.
Right. Well, just a reminder that our newsletter will be going out later with the best bet, and that will be probably sometime this evening. It'll go out certainly before the big game tonight, and we'll also last week. My best bet was Wales, which came horribly short, but fortunately hit the 9-1 accumulator to still show a profit. So let's hope we can get that best bet right. There is a link down below for the subscription to that betting newsletter. Right, that's it now for the World Cup. We'll come back to best bets. I'm not sure what's happened to Neil today. He has messaged me now. He's under a bit of pressure. I'll be able to see properly what he says now, and we can bring him on at the end of the show if necessary. But let's get into the URC. We got 8 games taking place this weekend, 6 on Saturday, and we got 2 taking place on Sunday. Now, Steve, I know you do follow the Northern Hemisphere, so we'll talk it through. If you don't have any opinion on the game, that's absolutely no problem at all. I have also done a little bit of research on these games myself. And first up, we've got a game, Zebri. This is on Saturday afternoon. The Italian side, they didn't win a game last season, lost all 18. They're playing against Ulster, who, if I remember correctly, finished second on the table, and we got a Zebra plus 14.5 and a points line of 56.5. Anything catch your eye there?
Oh boy, the Zebra side look. I think they look a bit more exciting than we've seen them in previous seasons. I've looked through the signings and the additions to the squads as build up to doing this with you here tonight. And I'm really interested about what they've got. So pickups are the most interesting thing to me here for a new season, right? But sure, they're not favourites. They're massive underdogs here in New Zealand as well. They're paying a huge amount to win this game. But aside from that, I just like the fact of looking at this team and the fact they've picked up guys like Pelledri, but they picked up Fatuli Paya and Scott Gregory from the Highlanders, which I think will add a lot to their midfield in terms of stability and just strength and just ball carriers. Nothing flashy. Those guys are nothing outstanding, but they're solid sort of ball carriers through the centre of the park. So I think they've got a lot of good new additions. Last season they didn't have a great year, lost all their games, right? But I think this year they could certainly improve as they go through. But looking at Ulster on the other side of things for me, they're a big addition. The big ginger, right? Stephen Kitshoff. Wow, what a big signing he is. He's going to really boost the side massively. So, yeah, a lot of losses for their team, but I think a good start here against Zebri could certainly boost them up, get that new youth they've got in the side. They are paying a massive amount here to pick up this win here, Zebri. So they are, about $7 they're paying here. And crazily, Ulster's only 14.5 points. So, yeah, I think we could be up on this, but don't go past Zebri later on in the season here. I think this side could look a bit exciting once they get their stuff sorted out, get their continuity in the squad. I think they might be good for a win or two this season. So don't completely write them all off this year based on that squad. They've got good power in that back row as well. A lot of Italians who have seen some good efforts from this World Cup as well. So yeah, that will be my little thing to watch, watching the Zebri side later on. But for this week, yeah, Ulster, big, overs all the way for me.
Right, interesting. I actually had a look at the game. Similar analysis. I think Zebri have bought fairly well in the off-season. And I like Zebri a little bit on the plus here. Not a game I'm going to get too involved in, but I like Zebri to beat this handicap of 14.5. Let's move on to the next game, which I can tell you is one of my best bets on the card. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, though. Connacht minus 13.5 against the Ospreys, and we've got a points line of 50.5.
Yeah, so me too. I looked at this one as well, and I looked at the odds that they are giving out here at the TAB, and I looked through the squads and the losses and the things that they've added in, and I looked at this and I'm like, I quite like what Connacht have got going on in their side here. I like the addition of Cordero. I'm a huge Cordero fan. I think he's an absolute fantastic little player. And yeah, Ospreys have suffered a lot of losses, right? And here they're paying. Connacht are paying $550. Ospreys, sorry, are paying $550 to pick up this win, which I think is a lot, despite what the losses they've got. I think that they've got a good little core of their side still around. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, if I'm going for a cheeky little outsider, paying a big margin like that, looking at the teams and the squads they've got and the changes, I think there might be a little bit of a gelling process maybe for that Ospreys side. But geez, I tell you what, at $550, that feels almost twice as much as it probably should be. $1.14 for Connacht here to $5.50. To me, they're probably $2.50 outsiders at the most, I'd say.
Very interesting, because you and I have analysed the same game and we've come to a totally different conclusion. I actually looked at Ospreys, and I don't know. I think Ospreys are going in for a long, hard season. I think they're going to battle, and I like the look of this Connacht side. And Mark Dunphy says weather in Galway. Well, the weather in Galway is always windy and miserable. He reckons Ospreys will be blown off the park. And Mark, I'm with you there. I actually like the minus 13.5 Connacht here. That's one of my better bets. So it's interesting, especially at this stage of the season, Steve. I mean, let's face it, none of us are going on any real form. We're kind of looking at the squads and making some assumptions and that sort of stuff. And it's what makes the early going in these competitions exciting. And I know Hendrik Swart, Undertaker, always believes that's where he makes his money, because he sort of gets ahead of the bookmakers early and then they catch up. So, going to be interesting to see which way it goes. I imagine these sort of games are, probably about late at night for you, these, and some of them into the very early hours of the morning?
Yeah, very early hours of the morning, pretty much most of these. I think you might get a couple around the midnight stage, but yeah, mostly going into the French hours, 1 to 3 a.m., which we love down here, yeah.
Excellent. And for Peter Paul saying there's minus 12.5 available there at BetExchange. I don't think that was available when I wrote my preview, unfortunately, because although I did go for 12.5, but I don't think it was at even money. Let's move on to the next game. This is a game I'm not paying a lot of attention to this weekend. We got the Dragons plus 4.5 against Edinburgh. Both of them coming off fairly disappointing seasons last year.
Yeah, I mean, the Dragons, I thought, have added some good forward depth in their side, but looking at what Edinburgh has got, even before what they've lost and what they've added on, the core of that side, I think, is sublime. It really looks incredible. What I was really excited to see here was the inclusion of a bit of a channel favourite of Tim Tam Swill here, as we call him. So I'm excited to see that change. I'm excited to see that addition, although we'll see how he goes this season. But for me, this was a simple one. Looking at those squads early on, Edinburgh, no problem for me. I'm surprised it's so close. Here, they're only going Edinburgh minus 4.5. So, geez, I think it could be a lot bigger than that one. Looking at that squad, I think the core of Edinburgh look really, really exciting, and they're going to be, I would imagine, gelling pretty quickly, up and running and straight into action. So, yeah, I really like that Edinburgh side.
Yeah, I haven't got a firm opinion on this one. I must admit, I was leaning probably towards Edinburgh as well. So let's move into the next game then. We got Lions. Oh, I did want to mention Tim Swill. I must say, I always say Tim Swill has got one of the best agents in the world because he keeps on getting him gigs. And I've never been the biggest Tim Swill fan. So when I was scanning through all the changes and his was right at the end there, I thought, okay, I quite like those, but I'm not so sure about that one at the bottom there. But let's move on to the first South African team in action, and it's the South African derby. It's taking place in Johannesburg. I can tell you conditions should be absolutely perfect for this one. The temperature sort of dropped off a bit here in Joburg over the last few days. It's not cold, but it's not like that hot summer at the moment. But conditions should be good. We got the Lions plus 5.5 against the Stormers, and a points line here of 51.5. Now, Steve, I'll tell you straight up on this one. I looked at the game. I was leaning Stormers, but I said, playing here in Johannesburg, I've got to go for over 51.5 points, and that's what I've done. What are your views on this one?
Well, I mean, I looked at this Lions side, and there wasn't too much that really got me too excited about this team, looking forward to their season. But, man, my Stormers, I like the Stormers back in the day in the Super Rugby times, and I say they look really, really good now as well. Looking at this team, they look fun. They look exciting. I think they've recruited really, really well. They've lost Stephen Kitshoff, which I think will be a bit of a blow, but to welcome back guys like Warwick Gallant, Skozan, Satoli, Gulbaka, a number of guys that I think are going to strengthen the squad as a whole. So I think they look really, really good. Home advantage here does play a big part in them, but gee, that Stormer side just looks incredibly good. And again, yeah, the big points, I think, the Stormers will go large. I think they're going to score big. And I just find it weird looking through these odds for this whole weekend. The results are quite one-sided, as in the odds for all results. You've got teams playing low dollars and teams playing 3, 4, 5s, and 6s. But then when you go to the margins are typically 5 to 10, which suggests that you're going to get clear winners, but not very well winning. So I'm not really buying into this. Some of these teams I look at, like the Stormers here, I think they're going to be really fun to watch. Heaps of talent, heaps of ability. And they should be. I think they'll be quite too much for the Lions this week, especially.
Yeah, I'm leaning in that direction. As I said, I've gone overs on points there. Mm-hmm. Then we move on to the next game. Cardiff, here I've got a -2.5 Cardiff, the home team, against Benetton, who I think have purchased pretty wisely in the off-season as well, and a points line of 52.5. I've got quite a firm view on this one, but let me get Cornflake's view first.
It always makes me a little bit intrigued when you go on about that sort of start. See, okay, I looked at these two sides, and the amount of changes here at Cardiff, massive, right? Huge changes, not to mention a guy like Liam Williams leaving this team is going to be massive. It doesn't matter what the name of your team is. If he leaves, he's going to be huge. And then they've got stacks of other names. I kind of like Benetton Treviso on this one. I like the signings. I like seeing Fikatawa, a good solid little squad. For me, I'm going against the favourites on this one, especially when they're only sitting, 4.5 points difference. I'd go Benetton to get that one with the start. That easily, I like that squad. And Cardiff, I think, going to take weeks to really get themselves sorted out, if not longer.
Well, if we read the last game differently, I can tell you we've read this one exactly correctly. Or exactly the same, should I say. Let's not say it's correctly until the results in the frame. But I think Benetton win this game on the road. I like the changes Benetton have made. Like you said, I had a quick look at that. I think it was an article here. They carried it on Planet Rugby with all the changes. I mean, Cardiff have lost a number of key players. They've, I don't really recognize so many of the names they brought in. I actually think Cardiff are really going to battle. And I'm looking at a very rare away win for an Italian side. Yeah, I think Benetton are going to do it. And Steve, as different as we were on that earlier game, we're very much aligned on this one. So this could be shaping up. I don't think it's going to make the newsletter best bet because I'll probably stick to a World Cup bet for that. But it is shaping up perhaps to go into the newsletter accumulator. So make sure you do hit the subscription box down below, hit the subscribe button and join us for that one. Right, so we're aligned on that one. Let's go on to the next one. We got Munster, -12.5. Munster, of course, defending champions, did absolutely brilliant last year, winning games on the road, including beating the Stormers in Cape Town. They now face a Shark side, and once again, and I think I wrote this in the Good for the Game preview, it seems like every season we go, this could be the Shark season. They've changed coaches. They've done this. They've done that. Can they stand up and deliver for us away in Munster, which is, of course, is never an easy task. They're 12.5-point underdog, Steve, and a points line here of 48.5.
Yeah, see, I like that sort of getting close, but not quite delivering the cookies on this one for the Sharks. This is Munster, right? I have a lot of little intriguing things I would like to see about this game. Player-wise, Nankivell moving away from the Chiefs over to Munster. So that's kind of I would imagine, their Fikatawa replacement throughout that midfield. You've got John Ryan, who's returned from his little hiatus at the Chiefs as well, spending a bit of time in Super Rugby. So a couple of little experiences going to a fray from New Zealand rugby there. But hey, this Munster side just look typically good, don't they? You look at the team and it's just like, it's just good. It's just really good. There's players of class, there's players of quality, there's depth in positions, and they just look like they're going to be, once again, incredibly tough to beat. But I look at the Sharks team and try to look at that, the fact that they're not playing Munster, right? I'm going to look at them just separate from the fact of how good their team should be regarding the whole competition. And I like the fact that in the way that they've recruited for this offseason. I think it complements their team quite nicely. Like they've filled the gaps that needed filled rather than just saying, here's a good player, let's bring him in and have really good stacked depth in one position and lack in others. I think they've built a squad quite nicely together. So honestly, I think here they're paying $5.25 to win this game head to head. I think that's rough. even 12.5. So I'll be going certainly for the side of the Sharks to win with that start as well. I think they could get close. I think the squad's good enough, but I just think Munster's just got the overall quality throughout their squad to get this job done. But hey, the Sharks team looks good. I think as a squad, it looks really, really solid throughout the season, and I would be surprised if they weren't in the mix come the end of the year for those playoff spots.
Right, yeah, I'm with you there. I looked at this game. I know there's been a bit of support for the Sharks on the Good for the Game forum as well. By the way, there is a link to the forum thread in the description box below. But yeah, I like the Sharks. Yeah, I don't know that they're going to win the game, and I'll give them a chance. But I think that the Sharks can beat this handicap of 12.5. So I'm definitely on the 12.5 Sharks. This will definitely make it into the newsletter accumulator. That's the last of Saturday's games. Let's move into Sunday's games now. And we got the Bulls at home to the Scarlets. We got differing opinions in the forum. I can tell you Southpaw coming heavily for the Bulls on the minus. And we had another punter, and the name, his username just escapes me for the second. He was suggesting Scarlets have looked good in preseason and can arrive on the plus. But Steve, and New Zealanders will know this, it's never an easy task to travel to Loftus. And personally, I think Scarlets have got it all to do on Sunday.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. When I look through the Scarlets side, the big thing that attracted me about their lineups or their ins and outs was the fact that Rex Patchell had left and he's now playing for the Highlanders next season, which I didn't actually realize that happened because I was overseas when it happened in April. And so that was a pleasant surprise. And if that doesn't kind of sum up my excitement about that Scarlets team, I don't know what else does, because I looked at and I didn't see too much to get really excited about. The Bulls look fun. They're really excited about the return of Billy LaRue, right? How good will he be coming back? Of course, obviously missing this week, but I mean, for the squad in the season, he will be a huge, huge addition. I think when this team's full strength, the Bulls, I think they're going to be really fun. They've got a lot of players that can be devastating, exciting, kind of X-factor guys that makes things happen out of nothing and could just change a game on its heels very, very quickly. So I think they're dangerous. And going for Scarlets here, I'm not too excited by that team list by Scarlets whatsoever. For me, I'm not seeing preseason, so I can't really too much judge on how they're playing in their build-up. But, the bookies here are not giving them any shot whatsoever. Big margins. And honestly, at 18.5, I'd even probably struggle looking at that squad to give them that. Just the Bulls look really, really fun. And it excites me to see a South African team that's embracing the fun side of rugby. Added to the fact where they're playing, it's quality of squad. Bulls all the way. Bulls big. And Scarlets, we'll see how they go as they progress through.
Well, I think you're the first guy to use the word fun and Bulls in the same sentence ever.
We hope.
But yeah, I'm I'm firmly on the Bulls in this game. I think they can win this game comfortably. I will have a look at, I haven't done the preview for Good for the Game yet, or I haven't done the bet for the Good for the Game yet. But I'm probably going to I might look at a points play on the Bulls. I might also look even at a halftime play. I think they're going to start off strong and absolutely blow these Scarlets away early. That takes us to our final game of the weekend, Steve, and we'll soon find out if Mark Dunphy's still watching in the live chat because it's his team, Leinster, playing. We got Glasgow, who had a good season. I think they were fourth on the log last season, and then they lost to Munster in the quarterfinals. They're plus 4.5 against Leinster, who I almost wanted to say were the defending champions, but of course they're not. They rested players for that semi against Munster, but they are once again the market leaders. They're very short price favourites at 4-7 to win the URC. What is going to happen here?
See, this is hard, right? Because you look at this, and Leinster are just stacked. they're just stacked. They just look really, really good. Much like we see from like your Munster and your sides like that. They just got quality throughout. What I find interesting about this though for Leinster is that number 10 jumper. Is it going to be the Byrne show? Is it going to be the Frawley show? What's the future going to be like in that number 10 jumper for that squad and possibly for Ireland, and years going forwards? That's got my eye in terms of this Leinster squad. When I look at Glasgow, I think Glasgow look like a side to me that can upset anyone on their day, but typically lack the squad to really be consistent against the elite sides of the competition as the year progresses through. A tough start to come up against a side like Leinster right at the get-go. I think if they were coming up against pretty much any other side in the league, bar maybe 2 or 3, they'll probably be easily winning this opening round. I think this squad looks really nice. It looks deep. It looks exciting. And they should really push it. The margin is really close. It's rough to say Glasgow will get that close. I would probably look elsewhere because I just don't know if Glasgow are going to get that close to pull it with that small margin in between. So I would maybe look at some other things halftime and sides like that and see if maybe find something a little bit, exciting to get through the first half. Maybe Glasgow doing something exciting there before Leinster pull away at the end. But don't discount Glasgow again. They're another side I think will be in the mix at the end of the season, along with Leinster. But it's just that top 20, it's that top 5% of elite players that they just lack, I feel, in their squad.
Right. Well, Mark's saying we have a good second team still, and that's so true, Mark. Always depth in Leinster rugby. But I must admit where I am leaning on this one, and I do think, Mark also made the point, Leinster missing 24 players from the Ireland squad. I actually think this is going to be a home win. I think this is going to be an upset. Ooh. And I think that Glasgow are going to take the win. I think we could get somewhere around 18-10 on the Glasgow win, and that's potentially what I think is going to happen there. Mark saying Forley is 10, he thinks, for Glasgow. Yeah, of course, even though we're doing this Friday afternoon South African time, some of the teams are still not out yet, but we've at least got a little bit of a better handle on them. I'm going to move to best bets now. But before we do that, I am going to go to the draw. Let me just bring the best bets tab up and we'll get your views there. Just Neil apologizes. He was called into an urgent meeting at work. So just as well, it wasn't just me and Neil doing the show, because I would have just been rambling on. So Steve, I'm pleased you were able to come on at fairly late notice yourself there. And we're gonna now see who wins the 500 betting voucher. Keaton Greaves coming in with a last minute entry, #RWC. I'm going to pull it up now, but if you get that in, I would say in the next couple of seconds, you might still get into that draw. Let's bring it up and see who wins the 500 Rand World Cup voucher. I'm kind of rooting for one of the guys who haven't won before. We've had a few repeats, so let's see what happens on this one. Racing through, of course, if it comes up good for the game, we'll definitely do a redraw. A bit of nepotism here. That's Robert Graham, my son, who's won at that time. But he is 18 and a punter these days. So well done, Robert, there on winning the voucher. I'm going to give away another 200 voucher as well. So let's give away another voucher to someone else on the show as well. My son and his friends have entered a few of these things. They've had absolutely no joy until now. But good to know he's following in the footsteps. And Peter Paul wins a 200 Rand voucher. So Peter Paul, you can get hold of me on that one. Right. Well done, guys. And Steve, give them a round of applause. And let's hope he's more successful with it than his old man. And Steve, what do you think then your best bets? Maybe give us a World Cup sort of best bet, and then you can give us a URC one.
Boy, I tell you what, the World Cup, I've got a few little tasty ones for the World Cup. I really like what they do with the boosted bets here at the TAB in New Zealand, because it's your real sort of freaky ones that are out of left field and kind of weird. I think my tastiest sort of one that I could find, I even wrote tasty beside it because I was that excited about it, but it was Richie Mo'unga to score a try at any time during the game for the All Blacks, and New Zealand to win that by 11-20, paying $9, which is quite a huge amount for that sort of quite likely sort of thing. But, they get crazy at the TAB. They've also got the All Blacks to win by 51 points, paying $12 as well. So, you could go crazy if you think things are going to get really, really interesting. For South Africa and England, there's a number of really humorous bets in this one. But I really can't look at England doing anything too exciting. The best I could hope for England would have been, point starts at halftime and things like that. But for England, my best choice sort of option was very similar to the All Blacks. So it was Bongi and Manami to grab a try and the Springboks win by 11-20 as well. I like those ones. I think the way that the Boks play, the maul, they'll look to that. They'll look to dominate England in that area nice and early. That's paying $6 as well. So that was nice and exciting. I was quite looking forward to jumping on that. But I'm going to go with my my big outside sort of bets. Where did I have that one? For my outsider. There we go. My outsider in the Ospreys Connacht game, 550 for Ospreys. I just think that's if you're up saying really exciting. I know that's opposite to what you're saying. That kind of makes me even more intrigued about it. Big bucks there. And also on that other one with Glasgow at the bottom there, I think that could be a really testy opportunity for the Glasgow Warriors to get a really big scalp nice and early, if you can pick up that one as well. Similar to your sort of bets here, I think the door is slightly ajar there against what would be a competition front runner come the end. So there's a couple of tasty big odds. I think the TAB here have been very, what should I say, very generous to some of the outsiders with some big odds in these games. So if you're into URC in this side of the world, yeah, definitely jump on those sorts of odds.
Right. Well, my best bets will be out in the newsletter. I got to say, from a URC perspective, yes, we'll be against each other in that one game there. The guys are having a bit of a laugh about my son winning in the draw there. Yeah, I've spent weeks trying to rig these draws, and finally I've got one right. But so the URC wise, I do like Benetton quite strongly there in the URC. I would be going against you there on Connacht, but my best bet will certainly come in the World Cup. I don't know what it is yet. I do know that I've identified a couple of, let's call them exotic markets in the World Cup, which I quite like. One of which is a drop goal, and I'm interested in your views on this. A drop goal at any time in England, South Africa at 3.5 to 1. I quite like that. I mean, I think there's going to be, even Colby last week tried a drop goal from the base of the mall, which I haven't seen actually in quite a few years. I thought that was pretty interesting. What do you think of that one? As a matter of interest, it's 4 to 1 in the New Zealand game, but I just think in the two matches, the drop goal is far more likely in the South Africa match.
Yeah, I think you've got a bit more of an arm wrestle game there between England and South Africa. I'll definitely take that on the Springboks game for sure. We've seen them. The Springboks have flirted with the drop goal a few times, and I wouldn't be surprised if England come into this game with a similar mentality as they went into Argentina in game 1 of the World Cup, right? Going into that with the take points at all costs, kick well into territory, look for a mistake, a penalty, an error, and then go for a kick, a drop goal, a penalty, whatever they can take. Because I think they should be pretty realistic about the fact they're going to find it tough to score tries. I don't think they're going to get the ascendancy they did like against Fiji in the Maul. They really dominated the Fijians in the Maul. They're not going to get that against the Boks. Around the play, the midfield battle is something I think that might be a bit close. Delende and Creel have been phenomenal, but Tarangi and Marchand have been pretty industrious themselves. So they might look for there, but I think their best chance of winning this game, England, is to take any point at every opportunity, milk as many penalties as you can. If it's 60 out, you're having a shot at goal. If you're 20, 30, 40 out, you're taking a drop goal. Just take every opportunity you can. If you enter the half of the box, you've got to take away at least 3 points. If they can do that, they might have a chance. But you're going to have to compete with sevens throwing back at you the other way. And we've seen the Boks, they can throw the sevens at willy-nilly as much as they like. So, yeah, definitely worth a nudge. I'll take that. And I think the Boks might do the same too. I think they can be sneaky with all those options. You know, you've got Colby, you've got the Libbocks, you've got the Pollards, but you've also got Reinarks who can snap little things over as well. You've got all those options. That's what I love about the Springboks side, is that they've got options and ability throughout. They're not cookie cutter, cut and dry players. You've not got a scrum half who just passes. You know, you've got a guy who can run. He's electric. He's just as adept on the wing with his pace, you know. And you've got players who cover fullback, wing, midfield. Now, they're just adaptable. And that's where I think they're the most dangerous. So your drop goal's certainly on for that one.
Right. I agree with you there. And I'm just, Chris is just coming in there saying, attempting a drop goal, yes, but in that rain, surprise if it goes over. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see the conditions. And, you know, that 43.5 total points is also starting to interest me now in terms of going low on that one. Can we bet on Colby to charge down another kick? Well, Daniel, it was mentioned by Steve, and I don't know any South African bookmakers that have got this, but it's certainly a market they could consider pricing up, and I'll see what I can do. But you were saying, well, what price did you say that was? About $5 in New Zealand on the tab?
Oh, no, 31. Colby to charge down a conversion, $31, yeah.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, I guess 5 would be a little bit short considering it happens once a generation. So, yeah, 30. Okay, interesting. We'll see if we can get maybe a local book, and maybe some of the local books even could have priced that up as well. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the show.
If I can add one more intriguing one that I just noticed I wrote down. That might be worth a little nudge. Not paying much, but England to kick more penalties than score tries. Paying a couple of dollars here. I think that's probably odds on to be a successful one as well, the way that they play the game. Along with your drop goals, you could definitely double down on the 3-pointers.
I think it's a cracking bet. I haven't seen that locally, but I'll certainly have a look out for it. I mean, there are hundreds of markets on offer. Looks like New Zealand have been pretty innovative on the betting front there, hey?
I like it.
Excellent. Well, hopefully we're all looking forward to a New Zealand South Africa final this time next week. Until then, though, thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. Thanks to the guys in the live chat. Just to mention, Leighton, you were a little bit late with your call there. We've already done the draw, but come in earlier next week and make sure you get in. And I just want to see Bitsy coming in, normally with the UFC play. I know my son also follows the UFC quite closely, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce those names, but there's UFC's parlay there. Bitsy's UFC parlay. Thanks very much, guys. It was great. Steve, excellent talking to you as always, and have a cracking weekend. Now go get some sleep.